Hey everyone, today I'm going to show you how to create this design. This is going to be done in Photoshop. I'm going to give you all the steps I did to create this artwork. We're going to create the whole composite. We're going to do lighting. We're going to do shadows. We're going to do blending. Basically, we're going to do everything to create this artwork. And I'm going to show you step by step how you can do it yourself. All the images that I used are in the description of the video. You can download them and you can follow along with the same steps. It takes a lot of time to create these kind of videos. This is really coarse material. So do me a favor, hit that like button if you're not going to watch it now. Save it for later and leave a comment. So let's get into this video and let's just start creating this artwork. Welcome to this editing video, and let's start with creating a new file. And I'm going to go with 4K. I want to have a big size image, a big resolution image. 4K will be fine. Resolution doesn't matter, and let's click on create. Now, the first thing what I would like to do is I would like to place like an animal on this side and a human on this side, like they are watching each other. An animal is going to be like huge, not normal size. So let me first go to my assets library, and I'm going to go into images, and I'm going to search for animals, and let's do a wolf. I'm going to place a huge wolf. I have these wolves here, so you can download these and then you can import them into Photoshop and use which one you want. I'm going to use maybe, let's see, we can do a gray one, maybe this one, or let's try this one. I like how the way he's looking a bit to the side. And I'm going to place it there. Let's place it in the center first because it has a background. But now with Photoshop, we can do select subject, and this will remove the background easily without doing any manual corrections. If you have the latest version of Photoshop, this does a great job on removing backgrounds. If you have an older version, you have to do this manually with the pen tool. I have lots of videos on that. Just let me know and I will add that video also, so you know how to remove backgrounds with the pen tool. Now, the background is now white, and I'm gonna press Ctrl Command I to invert it to make it black so I can see the edge of this wolf better. And you can see it doesn't make a perfect cut. So let's quickly fix that. First of all, let me make this bigger because I'm gonna rasterize this layer, and then it's gonna be not a smart object anymore. You can see this icon here. This means it's a smart object, and every time you're resizing this, it's not gonna ruin the quality. But if it's not a smart object, it's gonna ruin the quality every time you resize this. So I'm gonna make a rasterized layer, so it's not gonna be a smart object. But first, I'm making this big, just to make sure I have the biggest size. I'm not gonna make it bigger than this. And when you resize it to smaller size, it's not really ruining the image, but if you make it bigger, it's gonna ruin the image. So that makes sense, right? So I made the rasterized layer, and now I'm gonna click on this layer, and I'm gonna use the clone stamp tool. You can find the clone stamp tool here. Then I'm gonna go to the settings of the brush, and I'm just using the soft round brush here. You all have these brushes in Photoshop, and let's pick a size, something like that. And if you hold down Option or Alt, you can make a selection. I'm still holding down the Option Alt, and I'm gonna move it to there. So hold it down, make a selection, release it, and then just click my mouse, and I'm basically just moving the fur to the edge. You have to be careful you don't get this weird thing going on, but I just want to make the fur a bit better on the edges so it looks realistic and not like this weird grayish edge. So this is what I usually do to make a perfect cut of an animal, especially with the fur. You have to make sure it looks really nice like that. Let's also do this side. Doesn't have to be perfect, but just a little bit of that. Let's also do there, there, and here, just like that. And this is already enough. And now it's gonna look a lot better when we start doing editing to this animal. I'm also gonna do it here. And now let's move this up because we're probably gonna use the bottom side also, like the legs. And here I'm gonna do it again. So you can see this tail doesn't look right on the edges. So we can also make the brush a little bit different size, like that. So it's easier to grab a bigger piece and then just move it to the side. Now we're fixing up those edges. Make sure it's not white. You can see here it's getting a bit white. Just gonna fix that. Just like that. And also there. And we are already done with doing the brushing on the animal, and we have a pretty good cut of this animal. You can still see like this white line around it. We can easily fix that by, let's first make sure we place it somewhere there. We can hold down Control or Command and click on the mask, so it's making the selection. And then if you go to select, modify contract, it's gonna make the selection a little bit smaller, like inside this selection, if that makes sense. And then we can set how much pixels do we want to go. I think probably maybe 2, and that's enough. And now let me take this one, the rectangular marker tool, press right mouse and select inverse. So it's gonna make selection of the other side. And then with the black brush, you can simply brush this away, make sure it's black, and then you can get rid of that. And so we fixed that. And that's how easy you can fix those halo parts around it. Let's do it everywhere. Especially when you have an image that was first on a light background and then you want to place it on a dark one like we have now, you will see this stroke around it because it was originally on a lighter background, so it had that stroke around it. But now it's all fixed up, and let's check it out. And there it is. So this looks great. So we have our wolf here, and now what we can do is we can make this a smart object again because I want to resize this. Let's click right mouse and convert to smart object. Now, because we made a smart object, we are losing the mask here. So be sure that everything looks correct before you do this. But I don't need the mask anymore. I think this is perfect. Now, so we have this wolf here, and the next thing what I would like to do is I would like to place a human on the other side. So let me go back to the folder here, and I'm going to go into the people folder. And here we have some people with torches. So let's try to find one that we like from these. I think maybe something like this, because she's also looking like to the left side, exactly where the wolf is. I'm going to import this one. And let me check just in case if there's something else. This one looks also pretty cool, but we have to flip it horizontal. Let me try this out to see how this looks. And basically this way I'm getting my idea. I'm just placing them in the composite first. Let's make sure to remove the background. So I'm going to go to select, subject. I'm going to try both of these images and then I can define which one I like more. Let's make a mask like that. And look how great that looks. We don't even have to do anything with the pen tool anymore like we always used to do. At least if you have been following me, you know, I cut out everything with the pen tool, but the latest versions of Photoshop are so good at removing backgrounds, we don't need the pen tool anymore. This one looks also great, actually. So we have two options. We can do this one, although we have to make them both small. Let's make them first small with Control T. So if you select them both with Shift and then Control T, you can make them smaller, bigger. And I think something maybe like that. Maybe, or this one. Let's keep them both for now, and later on we will make a decision. You can see it's pretty hard to decide which one we want. I think this one, she looks a little bit more up, so I would place this a bit closer and maybe make it a bit bigger. Like that. These sizes are not real. As you understand, this is like a fantasy composite, so don't worry about the sizes. It doesn't have to look real. We're just making a composite that should look unreal. All right, so we have this one in the background. I'm gonna create a new, let's say, new solid color. And this will be gray. And I'm gonna take this part and press Ctrl. Oh, make sure it's here. And the background is black. And if I press Ctrl Command Backspace, I can remove that part. So this basically will be where the horizon will be. So I just want to have a basic idea of where the horizon will be. The next thing what I would like to do is I would like to know where my lighting will be. I'm going to pick a side for lighting. Let's first look at this image. Do we see any lighting on there? We don't really see any lighting anywhere. So we could basically use any lighting that you want. Sometimes you have photos where you see lighting already on the object or person. Let's say you will see it's a lot of shadows on this side. I will then make sure my lighting will come from that side. So I don't have to manipulate the whole image to make it look real. But in this case, we can do any side. So let's just create a lighting from that side because we see her face here. So I want to make lighting coming from the left side. So I'm going to do the left side, and I'm going to create a new layer. And this one will be just a hard soft round brush. And I'm going to make like a dot like that. And with Ctrl T, I can resize this and place it somewhere. So I'm going to place some lighting there. It could be a moon or something, or the sun, whatever. But she has this fire thing going on there. So I'm going to make sure it's a bit darker image. But if you want lighting, it's going to be from that side, like probably moon. All right, this is the lighting will be there. So let's first place some other stuff in this image. So we have to make some ground here. It looks like gray ground. So we want to make some grass. Maybe I have some grass images here. We could use any of these, or we can go to textures, and there we have ground. We can use stuff like this, for instance. So we have to pick something that we use for the ground. But first I'm gonna place some rocks. I wanna place some rocks around it just to get some more stuff in this image. And here we can pick some rocks. So let's go through these and see which one we like. Maybe something like, let's see, this one's a bit too round. This is too much. I think this one would work. Let's do number 4 here. And again, I'm gonna go to select subject. So it's gonna remove the background. And then just make a mask. And I'm gonna instantly convert this to a smart object, so it's good size. So it's good quality if I resize this. And let's just place it somewhere there. I think I'm gonna hide his feet there. Let's do another one. I think this is not enough. Maybe this one also. I'm just gonna place different ones like this. Select subject again. Then we have to wait for this to make a selection. And then we just make a mask. And we got these rocks here. Let's say here. I'm gonna place a lot of these around it. Like that. We can stretch it a little bit. If you hold down shift, you can stretch it out like that, but don't do it too much or else it's gonna look weird. But just a little bit is fine. You won't notice that. And I'm gonna duplicate this with Ctrl J or Command J if you're using a Mac. And I think we can move this a little bit up like that. And now I'm gonna draw something here. So I'm gonna take the pen tool now. Let's see, pen tool. And it's gonna be underneath her. And I'm gonna draw something like maybe some hill or something like that. Then I'm gonna close this and I'm gonna make sure it's closed. And then I'm gonna make selection. And the radius, let's keep it at 1. So you have a little bit of soft edge. And this is an empty layer now. So if I press Ctrl Command Backspace, it's gonna fill it with black. And let's use this black color. Actually, the wolf is pretty small. I think we need to make it bigger. All right, let's leave it like that. I'm gonna make her smaller, like that. All right, this will be some grass or some ground. So I'm gonna go to my folder here. I'm gonna try to find some ground. So maybe this one would work, or this one. Let's try to find one that looks a little bit more like rocky. Let's see, this one is a bit dark. Probably this one also looks pretty good. Let's try that one, the first one. I'm gonna place it like that. And I'm gonna press right mouse, free transform. Let's resize this. And I'm gonna make sure it's inside this shape. So I'm gonna hold down Control or Command. And when you click on this layer, it's gonna make this selection. And I'm gonna go to this one and just make a mask. Now I'm gonna release this icon here so I can move this around with the move tool like that. And then I'm gonna press Ctrl T to resize this. I want to make sure it fits this. I'm also gonna stretch it a little bit out like that. So if you hold on Ctrl or Command, you can change the perspective a bit like that. So this will make it look a bit more real. Let's make sure it's slightly like that. And I think this will be fine for now. Now the edge doesn't look right because it's too hard. So I'm gonna go to the brush here and we can brush this. Let's first disable this. We don't need that now. And I'm gonna look for another brush. Let's say we have these brushes from Photoshop. If you go to here and select legacy brushes, you have all these standard brushes from Photoshop. Let's go to legacy brushes, and I'm gonna go to dry media brushes, and I think it was here. No, where was it? Not dry media. Let's see, where was it? Natural brushes, maybe default brushes. Let's see, default brushes, and then there it is, dune, grass, and grass. We can use these. So I'm gonna use, let's say, grass brush, and I'm gonna brush the edge, but let's make sure it's there. And I'm gonna go to the settings of the brush. Let's see, settings of the brush, and I'm gonna disable scattering, and I'm gonna disable color dynamics, and I'm gonna brush like that, so I can make like this edge look like there's some grass. Actually, we can enable scattering. Let's see if that's better. Let's skip it. Maybe that will make it less like a pattern. We can also do a little bit here in front of these rocks, just like that. This one blended better together. You can see this bushes goes over these rocks, and also there. Don't worry about how this looks now, because later on we'll add some mist or something like that, and it will be darker. We'll change the lighting, it's gonna look better, but for now this will work. I think this will be enough for now. I'm gonna disable this layer because I don't need that one. This was just the basic idea where I want my horizon to be. I think it should be now like that, but let's disable this. All right, these rocks, I'm gonna move them a bit around. Gonna place this a bit more like behind him, like there. And with Ctrl T, I'm duplicating these rocks. So let's place more of these, like there, maybe there. You can also rotate this like slightly, not all the way around, but like that. So with Ctrl T or Command T, sorry, Ctrl J or Command J, you can duplicate these layers and place them everywhere. And I'm gonna place all these rocks in a folder. So let me go there and select all these rocks by holding a shift and then Ctrl Command G to group them. So I have all these rocks in one folder. Then I can easily just organize this a bit better. This one I'm gonna delete. Let's keep this clean like that. All right, the next step to do is we could place more objects here, or we can start blending this a bit better together. So let's see what we have in the folder. Maybe let's place a tree. Let's see, where do we have trees? It's images, and then we're gonna go to textures. Here we have trees or leaves. We can also place some leaves. These one I will use for the foreground to blur them out. I like to do that, then we can create depth in our image. But let's first work on the leaves, trees. And I'm gonna use, I think I had some more trees in another folder, but for now I'm gonna use one of these. Let's place this one here. And I'm gonna place them above everything and just go to select subject, make sure it's this layer, select subject. And then it's gonna make a selection again. These backgrounds of these images look like it's transparent, but it's not. It's just transparent like. But for Photoshop, it's good because you can see how great this makes a selection. All right, so I have this tree and I'm gonna make right mouse and convert to smart object. And with Ctrl T, I'm gonna place this somewhere around. That's why I have some more stuff going on around here just to fill this area up. Let's place it somewhere there. Let's see, maybe something like that. You can also place it here, maybe in the foreground, even better. Let's do another one. And maybe we can use this one, see in the foreground here. I'm gonna remove this lighting here because it doesn't make sense now. I'm gonna place this one in the foreground, but first let's make a selection of the subject so we can remove the black. Not sure if it's gonna work, but it looks it worked out. All right, I'm gonna place this one here. Maybe this will look cool, then we can create some depth. The color doesn't match this image, right? So we're gonna fix it later. And I'm gonna duplicate this one and move it to that side. Just like that. And I think this will look pretty neat when we have everything. I'm gonna get rid of these here because I don't like this. It's blocking our wolf here. So let's first get rid of that. So with a black brush, you can get rid of that like that. We'll fix everything later. All right, so I have the basic idea here. Let's do a little bit more in the background. And now we can start blending everything better together. Let's place also something like there. So to blend everything together, we need to make sure the colors are the same in the same range and also the lighting. First of all, this area is way too light. If you look at the background, it's black. So I'm assuming it's night. So I'm going to add a curves to this one. And make sure to press this so we only affect this layer. And I'm going to take the highlights and make them dark like that. And also the midtones to get more contrast there. Just like that. And it's already a lot better. And let's hold down Shift and select both of these layers. And then press Ctrl G to group them. And I'm going to do the same effect to this whole layer. So I'm going to place a curves above the whole folder. Make sure to press this and then bring this down and this one also. And I'm going to make them pretty dark, just in the same range as the ground. Let's do the same for the tree. I'm going to first put this in a group and then do some curves. So basically we're going to make everything dark first. You can see this tree has a little bit more lighting on that side. So what I would do is I would take this tree and go to edit transform and flip horizontal because she's having a light here and it's a good thing that we have some light reflections on the tree on that side. All right, so the curves here, the trees got pretty dark, highlights down, midtones like that. And we will fix everything later. Now also these trees in the foreground. Let me get rid of this. And this one will be, let's also put this in a folder. So I'm gonna make a group here, drag this inside this group, and then curves. And this one is pretty dark already, so I'm also only gonna use the highlights. So only highlights down. And instead of doing that again, I'm just copying this layer and moving it there because this is quicker and we're getting the same effect. All right, so we have those trees and we have everything here. Oh, the wolf is also needs to be in a folder. And I'm gonna add a curves again to this wolf. Bring the highlights down and also the midtones. All right, so it's a pretty dark image now, but that's fine because we're gonna fix everything. And also the woman here, let's add this in a group there. Add some curves again and bring the highlights down in the midtones. We need to be careful. The midtones she's pretty dark already. She has some white halo around it, so I'm gonna fix that first. So hold down Control and selecting the mask of her, then select modify contract, and then maybe 2 pixel is too much. Let's do 1 pixel first. Select modify contract and 1 pixel, and then take this move tool and select inverse. And if you press D on your keyboard, you can make the background color black and the foreground color white. And if you press Command backspace or Control backspace, it's gonna remove it. Make sure it's not on the layer of the curves, but on her layer mask like that. And that's already a lot better. All right, so that's fixed. Let's now work on the lighting. I think these stones look a little bit weird. I'm gonna disable this. I think they have different colors. I'm gonna take this one. No, not that one. I'm gonna take these original stones and I'm gonna duplicate them and move them here. I think this might look a little bit better. Like that. Although we see too much of the same rocks, we can later on add some other rocks, but for now I'm gonna use these. I think we see too much of a pattern here, and so we have to fix it later, but now I'm gonna do it like this. All right, let's start blending the colors and the lighting we need to do. Let's start with doing some lighting here. So this one I will place there, somewhere behind everything. Maybe this will be some moonlight. And the first thing what I would like to do is I would like to, let's do some colors first. I'm gonna add a hue and saturation to this wolf, and I'm gonna drop the saturation here a bit so we get rid of the colors, and the same goes for her. Let's add a hue and saturation and make sure to press this so I'm only affecting her, and I'm gonna drop her color, and also especially these here, hue and saturation, these in the foreground. You can see when I move this one around, I want to get rid of that blue. It's too blue for me, so I'm gonna drop this like that, and Ctrl J duplicate this, put it there, and then make sure it's only affecting the layer of this tree. All right, let's do the same for the ground here. Hue and saturation, press this and drop the color. It doesn't have to be perfect now, we will fix colors later, but first I want to get rid of all the colors because we have a pretty dark image and I want to get rid of all these colors. All right, we have everything done. We can even name these layers like foreground left, and then this will be tree foreground right, and this will be woman torch, and then this will be ground. We're getting so much layers now, so I want to organize it a bit. This will be rocks, and this will be wolf. Now that's easier to navigate. I forgot we also got this one, but let's delete that one. I think we already made a decision. We don't need that one. All right, let's now try to see if we can make the lighting right. I'm gonna start with her. She has this light in her hand, that torch, and I want to make sure I'm gonna light it up. Now to light things up, we're gonna create layers on top of these layers. So first make sure you are working inside this folder, the woman with a torch, and I'm gonna click on the top layer. And first what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a hue and saturation, and make sure you press this so you're only affecting her. And I'm gonna increase the lightness here and also the saturation. And I'm gonna pick like something, let's see, I want to make her a bit more yellowish like that. Let's increase this even more. And this is basically for reference. So I'm not going to use this color. I just want to have something that I can see pretty well on the original image. See, we can see this pretty good. So first click on the mask and press Ctrl I to get rid of it. And now I'm going to take a brush and I'm going to use a soft round brush, and I'm going to bring the flow really low. Let's say maybe 10 to 15, and then I'm gonna start brushing. Now, what I would like to brush is I want to brush the highlights of her. So the flow is really low, so we have to click a couple of times to brush. I'm gonna even make this lighter so I can see this better. Let's increase this one all the way like that. And now you can see, we can see this pretty good. And if we brush one time, we don't really see it, but if you press a couple of times, we see it's better and better. And that is because we are bringing the flow down. And when you have a low flow, you can click like 10 times and it's going to be like flow 100. But if you bring the opacity down, you can click as many times as you want. It's not going to make it lighter, but with flow, you can really control this. So let's start brushing. So we have this torch here, so we want to make sure we brush some areas that are getting light from the torch. Actually, let's change the color a bit. It's too much yellow, I think. Let's do it a bit more this, just to have a better feeling about this when we are brushing. But obviously the color doesn't matter right now because we are basically just brushing to get the highlights of our image. So we're getting some highlights there. And the thing about this is you just have to brush where you think the highlights will be. I think the highlights will be visible there. just some reflections from this torch. Maybe also there, although she's blocking the light there, but let's do a little bit there. Let's see here, probably at her head here. We will get some lights there. Let's see, before, after, it's starting to light up. And that's exactly what we want. Next, we can make the brush smaller, zoom in a bit. And like that. Let's brush a bit there, maybe a bit here. Not much. I'm gonna brush a bit more here. All right, I think for now this should be enough. Let's also do a little bit on this thing itself, on the stick, like there. And let's actually brush the whole top side there. Also, this clothing sticking out here, so to also get some reflections. Let's do it a little bit better. Maybe a little bit there. This one's gonna be a little bit less. So I think for now this should be enough. And the next step what I would like to do is I'm gonna create a new brush. I mean a new layer, and it's gonna be exposure layer. And make sure to press this. And let's disable this brush for now. I mean the mask here. And in this exposure layer, I'm gonna increase the exposure. So this will be the highlights. But I'm gonna use this that we just brushed, this mask. So if you hold down Option or Alt and click here, hold it, drag it there, it's gonna place it there. Now you can see it's only affecting these areas. And that's exactly what we want. We just want to affect these areas. And now we can define how much of this we want. Now, besides defining how much of this brightness we want, we also want to define how much color do we want. So now we're just increasing the brightness. There's no color here, but I want to add some color to it. So I'm gonna go here, and below the exposure, I'm gonna add a hue and saturation. And let's take this with holding down Alt and drag it there. And I'm also gonna change this settings for this. And first of all, make sure to click colorize and don't touch the lighting, only touch the saturation and hue. And here you can see we can pick a color that we want. So I'm guessing the lighting, the torch, will be a little bit like orangey, like that. Maybe something like this. And now we can go back to this one and we can change this. And now we can define how much of this do we want. I think something like that. Or if you just want to have lights without the color, you can just disable this layer. So this all depends on what you want to do with your image. Now this torch is a bit too dark, so let's also make sure we brush the torch itself. So I'm gonna go into the mask and the exposure one, and I'm also gonna brush there. And let's see, this is the curves. Let's make a mask on the curves, and I'm just gonna get rid of this part just to make this light. All right, something like that. And that's already better. All right, let's also work on the wolf. Now, I'm gonna click on the wolf first here. Let's close the woman torch for now. And actually, she also needs some shadow. Let's just give her some quick shadow. Now, the shadow will be underneath her. So I'm gonna create a new layer here and drag it there, and so it's inside this folder. And I'm gonna take a color like from the ground here, like this dark brownish. And then I will click multiply here for the layer mode. And I will drop the flow here really low. We have 12 flow, that's fine. I'm gonna change the brush like that. And now I can start brushing. So let's zoom in here. And I'm gonna make the brush even smaller. So the closer you get to the subject here, the darker it should be. Now the more it goes there, back, the less you should see it. I'm gonna make the flow even lower. I wanna have a bit more control here. So I'm gonna click there. We are already getting shadow. And it doesn't have to be perfect shadow, just like a little bit of shadow, because everything will be even darker, I think, on this side. So make sure here where she is standing, this will be the darkest part. She's blocking all the light, And the more you go to the back, the less you will see it. And you can also even use like a blur, so you could blur out the end of it, so like really sharp here, sharp edges, and the more you go to the back, the more it's kind of blurred out. Or you can make it bigger there, like that. I think this is for now fine. We will later on check it again to see how this looks, but I think this will do it for now. Let's now work on the wolf here. So I think this wolf, and I'm gonna make a, let's see, hue and saturation. Also just make sure it's on the top. So hue and saturation, and again this one, colorize, and pick something that we can see, like say like that, and then close this and press Ctrl Command I on the mask, and then start brushing. So let's make a normal brush again. I'm gonna bring the flow somewhere around 12, and I'm gonna brush a bit on this wolf. So she is having this light thing, so I want to have some light effects on this wolf, some highlights. Now for this one, let's increase the hardness here, because I want to create some rim lights on this wolf. And I'm gonna increase the hardness here and also the flow. And the first thing what I would like to do is I'm gonna brush here. So let's see, the light is coming from there, so we will see some highlights here. First, let's draw it like that. And then I'm gonna take this brush and bring the hardness down and also the flow. And I'm gonna make sure it's black. So we're getting rid of it again. And I'm gonna get rid of it. Because I have such a soft brush, like 11, you have to click a lot of times. So I'm clicking here, you can see, I'm just making sure I'm creating this kind of effect. And this will be our rim lights, light reflection, highlights, whatever you want to call that. So let's make sure it's only on this side, like that. Don't worry about it being that kind of orange, that doesn't really matter. Now let's also do back the hardness at 100%, the flow at 100. And I'm also going to do this here, like this side. This area is black, so you probably won't really see it here, but let's try it out. So here, this part, I'm gonna brush it away again. So make the brush black, bring down the flow. Oh, bring down the flow here in the hardness. And I'm gonna brush it away again, like that. And I'm clicking a lot of times here just to get rid of it there, but just keeping it there. You can barely see it, but that's fine. Let's also brush a little bit here. So getting a bit more reflections. This will make the whole composite look more interesting, like that. Let's also do here. And the only way to understand where you need to brush is to just think about where the lighting will be. And I'm also going to do here, but I'm going to press X. So I'm inverting this, and I'm going to get rid of it here. So it's going to go a little bit like between the legs there. Now I'm going to take this one again. Let's also do there. Let's see this like there. Can do there, maybe a bit more here. And I'm gonna remove here. I'm not used to using the X shortcut. You can see if I press X, it's gonna flip this. So sometimes I forget it, sometimes I use it. So let's do it here. We also have to do it a little bit less here because she's standing pretty far away from the wolf. So we have to be careful. Let's also do here. And I'm gonna change this here like that. Just some highlights that are reflecting, and especially those lighter parts here maybe. And we can also do there. I think for now this will do it. I'm a bit worried the eyes are too dark, so let's find this curves layer, and I'm gonna get rid of the curves in the eyes. So I still want to see the eyes like that. This will make it better. And I'm gonna make a new layer. I'm gonna go to edit fill, select 50% gray, change the blend mode to overlay, and then I'm gonna use the Dutch tool. Let's see, where was the Dutch tool here? And make sure you're selecting midtones. Let's say exposure 30, and then I'm gonna brush these eyes lighter. I think the eyes are too dark. Also the reflection there, just brush it a bit lighter so you can see that better. I think this will make the composite a lot better, especially when you have those dark kind of images. All right, so this is the brushing. Let's go back to the brushing part here, this one, and I'm gonna brush a bit more. Let's also maybe do slightly there, just a little bit. All right, so I think for the brushing part, this would be enough, maybe a bit there. And what I would like to do now is I'm gonna create a new curves layer, and no, sorry, not curves. I'm gonna create a new exposure layer, and the same as the previous one, I'm gonna hold on Alt or Option and drag this mask there. Make sure it's a clipping mask, so create clipping mask, so we only affecting the wolf. And this one I'm gonna disable, and this one I can change. And now let's create a new hue saturation layer, and again hold down Alt or Option and drag the mask also in this layer. And here in this one we're gonna change the color. Click on colorize, and now we can pick any color that we want for the reflection. So let's say something like that. Don't touch the lightness here, because when you do this it's gonna look weird. So let's keep it original like that, and this will be something like that, maybe. Or yeah, I think this is fine, and I'm gonna leave it like that. All right, let's keep it like that, and I'm gonna go to the curves, and think the wolf can be even darker. So I'm gonna take these midtones, move them there, and maybe a bit less highlights like that. All right, so now we can also brush some lights on the tree. So let's go to the tree, and I'm gonna do basically the same. First add some hue saturation, colorize it, and make it light so we can see this good, like that. Oh, and then Control I on the mask, or Command I, and let's just brush a little bit here on this side. And this will be like reflections. Obviously, if you want to do this really carefully, you can zoom in here and do all these leaves one by one, but you can imagine how much time that would cost. I'm just gonna do this quickly. Just on this side, some lighter areas from her torch. Let's also do this here. Maybe a bit on this stick here. Like there. Make sure it's brushing and not removing. I'm just gonna try this quickly like that. Just a little reflection there. Now let's make a new exposure layer, and the exposure one, I'm gonna drag this mask there. So basically the same. And I'm gonna increase the exposure here. And let's now also make a new hue saturation, and I'm gonna drag this mask there, and this one I'm gonna pick a color like orange, let's say a bit like that. Now go back to the exposure and move this one around, and let's see, we can also see some little border around this. So I'm gonna click on this one but hold down Control, and then select modify contract 1 pixel, and then click on the tree and make a mask, and that's fixed. And let's see, I think the color isn't quite right here, so I'm gonna move these around. Let's say a bit more orange like that. I think we could also brush even more, although you should brush first and later on do this, but I'm I thought I didn't brush that part, so let's leave it like that. I think this will be fine for now. All right, let's also work on the ground here. First of all, I want to add is I want to make this even darker. So I'm going to make a new curves and I'm going to make it even darker like that. And now I'm going to create a new hue saturation layer. And let's see if we can even see this. Let's make sure it's only affecting the ground. And here I will pick something like orange. So just so I can see this better, lightness increase. And get rid of it. Press Ctrl I. And now I'm gonna brush again. And this time what I will want to brush is I want to have like some reflections from the torch on the ground. Just a bit around her. Like she's lighting up this area. So we could brush this a bit like that. And now I'm gonna create a new exposure and again drag this inside this layer. So basically we're doing the same as we did previously. And let's disable this layer for now, the first one, and here I'm gonna increase this. Actually, we can also just take this one and make sure the lighting stays at 0 and just use this slider if you want. That would also work just like that. And now we can define the color. And I think this starts to work out pretty well already. We can also lighten up those rocks. So let's make sure we apply to the whole folder of the rocks. So let me close all these layers. So here's the rocks. I'm gonna first add hue and saturation again, colorize it. This will be the rocks, and I'm gonna make the mask go away again here and basically do the same. Just brush. Let's increase the flow a bit here. And let's say maybe a little bit there. Because this wolf is getting some light reflection, so I also want to make these rocks get a little bit of this light reflection. Maybe just a little touch like that. Maybe there. We should also probably do it a bit more carefully, but I'm just doing it like that. And these areas I'm going to remove again, like these darker parts, like there and there, just to make this all look more real. This area is probably too far away to get lights, so maybe like that and that. Again, create a new exposure layer on top of that one and make sure you copy the mask, get rid of this mask and lighten up those parts. And let's actually use this one. Make sure we're only using the first two sliders here, like that. All right, we're getting somewhere. Now we can start working on the background. Now, before working on the background, I think I would add some reflections also here on the tree. I think this light will also reflect there. Let's go back to the tree and actually we're gonna make this mask better. So let's enable this again so you can see this better. I'm gonna take a brush and I'm gonna brush a little bit more here on this tree so we can create some light reflections, especially those lighter parts there and there. This will probably get some light from the torch. Maybe also here. Oh, like that. Just a little bit better. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this mask and drag it there. Oh, hold on Alt and drag it there. And also there. And then disable this one. And let's see, I think it's a bit too much here on the bottom. So let's fix that. Let's get rid of it slightly with a black brush. Oh, let's see this part here. I'm gonna take a black brush and make it slightly less than we had, just a little bit. Also there, it's maybe too much. Just like that. Let's keep it like that. All right, let's work on the background now. I'm gonna disable this one for now. I don't know if we even need it, but let's make something in the background. Oh, I forgot these stones. I think I want to brush them a bit darker. I feel like they're like one lighting effect on them. I want to make them a bit darker. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create the curves and gonna make them dark. Let's bring the highlights down and make them dark like that. And this already looks better. I think they are a bit too light. Let's keep it like that. Maybe a bit less contrast, but less highlights also. All right, let's work on the background here. These in the foreground, I think we can disable them for now. Let's work on the background now. We can create some mist, or let's try to add a background photo here. I'm gonna go to the images and I'm gonna look for, let's say, landscapes, maybe mountains. Let's see what we have here. Let's try this one. What I usually do is I'm adding lots of different backgrounds and then I will decide which one I'm gonna use. So let's first take this one, put it there. Obviously this is way too light, so this probably won't work. But I'm probably only gonna use the sky there. Maybe like that. But making this really dark, so I'm gonna add a curves to it, and this already looks better. Now, because we have that sunset going on there, we probably need to correct this lighting, because there we have some sunset, and we should also get some highlights, light reflections here on the wolf. But let's first bring this down like that. And I'm also gonna add a hue and saturation here, and I'm gonna drop the color a bit. Although this also looks pretty cool. Maybe we can make the wolf more red. Let's keep it like that. I think this looks pretty nice. But what if we go to edit, transform and flip this horizontal? Maybe this will be better. I think this looks even better. I'm gonna increase it even bigger. Maybe, maybe something like that. And then we have lighting from the torch, but also a bit from the background. I think this blends better together. Let's say like that. I'm gonna use filter blur, gosh blur. At least I'm gonna try to blur out the background. Let's see if this makes it a little bit better. Kind of makes it softer, like that. Let's keep that. And if we drop the opacity of this background, I can make it darker. Like, I can really define how much of this background light I want. So I'm gonna make it slightly darker. Let's also do some sort of a mist in the background. First of all, we need to make sure it's somewhere here under the wolf, but above the background layer. And I'm gonna go and make a solid color, and it's gonna be something grayish, maybe like that. And then I'm gonna click on the mask and get rid of it with Ctrl I. And now I can just take a normal brush with a really low flow, let's say 4, and I can brush some mist there. You can see it starts getting misty in the background. Let's see before, after, but we could change this color if we want. So if we want to have some other color mist, we can do it there. So I'm basically just gonna play around with this one. Maybe something like that. This also looks pretty nice. And we can also drop the opacity if you want to make it less misty. I'm just gonna do that. This layer I'm gonna duplicate with Ctrl J, and I'm gonna place it above here, and I'm gonna delete the layer mask, and I'm gonna make a new layer mask and press Ctrl I to get rid of it. And I'm gonna add some mist also here, maybe around it. Let's see if that will work. But I'm gonna change the color. I think it's a bit too orangey. Make it more darker like that maybe. Oh, like he's a little bit in the mist there. Let's place this layer underneath the woman and above the ground. Oh, let's put it there. So it's basically behind her. So if I brush, oh, if I brush here, it's not gonna be going over her, but only like behind her and also behind this tree because I don't want to affect her. I just want to have it a bit in the background like there. Let's see if we can make this better. I think it's a bit too much now. It's too misty for me. So what I would do is I'm gonna drop this really low. Just want to have this slightly like there. Because the more you go to the backside of the image, the less contrast you have. So I want to make sure it's a bit less contrast there. And this tree is also, I don't know if we even need it. You can also remove, maybe you don't even need it. And that's basically the good thing about Photoshop. You can just draw some things, and if you don't like it, get rid of it. Or maybe, I think this one will be better if we place it like there in the foreground. This one looks cool. Let's place it like that. See how I just changed the idea of something? And let's also work a bit more on the background. I think we can try to add maybe another image. Let's see if we have something maybe like that. Place it above the layers of the background. So I'm gonna take this one, drag it here. I'm not sure if this is gonna work, but maybe if you play with the blending modes here, something like this, or maybe like that, but with a really low opacity, like in the background. Does this work? It creates a bit more depth in this image, and that's exactly what I want. Although I want to have it like a bit down there, so not really like, let me see, not really like that, but more down there. The only thing we have to fix is this here. You can see it's ending there. So I'm going to make a mask a bit higher. I'm going to make a mask, and with a gradient, just black to white, I can fix that. So place it like that. All right, I think this one is better. All right, what do we have to do here? We have to work on some stuff in the foreground, I think. And I have a feeling the wolf is a bit too dark. So let's create a curves. I'm gonna make the wolf a bit lighter. Maybe like that. But not on every part. So I'm gonna press Ctrl I. And I'm just gonna make it lighter here at the front. So you can see I'm lighting up this area. On the backside, let's keep it a bit more darker. All right, I think there's one problem with the wolf. I feel like he's a bit, there's too much contrast in his wolf. So you can either take this one and bring it up. Just make sure it's the first one, like that. Just a little touch, bringing those darker tones a bit up. That helps with blending. Let's work a bit on the foreground. So we place this tree in the foreground here, and I want to work on that. I'm gonna duplicate this layer, and to see, can I place it on the other side? Transform, flip horizontal. Is this better? Or maybe like some sort of a bush here. Let's try it out. Let's see. So the best thing to do is to just change the sizes, place it on different parts like that. This also maybe is pretty good. But this one is close to the foreground, so let's say if this would be here, it should have a lot of contrast. So let's take the curves. So it's going to be really black here. It's pretty dark also. And I'm going to add a blur to it. So I'm going to rasterize all these layers. So if I take this folder and press Ctrl E or Command E, it's going to be one layer. And then I'm going to convert it to a smart object and go filter, blur, and add some Gaussian blur. And now we can create some depth. And let's see how this looks. maybe just a little bit like that in the foreground. Now this one here we could keep sharp. I'm not sure if we need this one. Let me go back here. Maybe we can place like a leaf here. I'm gonna go to my images again, and I'm gonna go to textures, and I'm gonna go to leaves, and I want to place some leaf in the foreground instead of that tree. And this one, let's select subject, and it's gonna make a selection again of this leaf. Make a mask and edit, transform this horizontal. Maybe there. And then I'm gonna add the hue saturation. Make sure you only affect the leaf, and I'm gonna bring the color all the way down. And I want to have more like this kind of color tones, and also some curves because this is in the foreground. I'm gonna make sure it has some more contrast like that. And let's put this in a folder, grouping this together, and maybe do one more, something else. Maybe let's see, some kind of bushes or something. Let's see in the trees, what do we have here? Maybe something like this. Select subject. I'm gonna try this one, and then I can define which one I want to use. So the best way to do this is to just try out different ones and then decide which one you like most. I'm gonna hold down Control and click on the mask, and then select modify contract. And I'm gonna do this again and select inverse just to get rid of that white halo. And this one, oh, deselect. And this one I'm gonna place bigger here, maybe like that. Let's hide the leaf for now, and I'm gonna see if this one works better. Now the color doesn't look right, so I have to fix that. But first of all, I'm gonna add some hue saturation, bring down the colors here, and then add a curves, make it darker like that. Just to get those midtones down. And then let's go back to the hue saturation, and I want to make this more like yellow orange kind of lighting. And I think this is already better. Let's put this in a folder, and I'm not sure if I need to blur this out. I don't like the quality of this image, so I probably want to blur this out. But let's first get rid of this one. I don't like this. I'm just gonna brush it away quickly. It doesn't look right here. Just like that. And now we can leave it like that. Let's see if this one has a better place. Not really. I'm gonna try to make this bigger. I have a feeling there's something missing like at the bottom here. How about that leaf here? Maybe if we put the leaf in the foreground like that, and then I'm gonna rasterize it with Ctrl E, make a smart object, and then go to filter, blur, select Gaussian blur. Maybe something like that, although you can barely see it that it's a leaf. But I'm gonna duplicate this and place it on the other side like there. Try this out. I think this creates a bit more depth in this image. I like when you have some depth in the image, and without this it's kind of missing this part. I'm gonna place it like that. Just the little leaf here. Some people would even argue that it just looks like some blurred out mess, but I think it adds a little extra to the image. Let's see, maybe like that. You can even blur out more here the closer it gets to the front of the camera. This one like that. Maybe just at the bottom there. All right, I'm gonna leave it like this, or else I'm gonna play around with this too much. Let's work a bit more on the lighting, especially on these light effects here. I'm gonna go to her layer, and let's see this one, the hue and saturation. I'm gonna duplicate this with Ctrl J. I'm gonna delete the mask, and I'm gonna make sure it's a clipping mask, so we only affecting inside her. And now I'm gonna make a mask and press Ctrl I. And what I would like to do is I would like to add some more reflections of this color on her. So what I'm doing now is, let's make sure I do it again because it was too much. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna bring down the flow and also the hardness at 0. And I'm gonna brush a bit here. So this is just a little bit extra color of this light effect. If I disable this, let me zoom in here. You can see it a bit here. Enable, disable, a bit more effect of this color. Let's do the same on the ground here. I'm gonna duplicate the hue and saturation, delete that layer, make a mask, create a clipping mask, and press Ctrl I on the mask, and then brush a bit there just to make this effect a bit more orange like that. All right, now we need to work on the lighting. So I'm gonna go to the top layer of her, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a new layer. I want to create some glow. So I'm gonna create a solid color, and this is gonna be orange like that. And I'm gonna use linear dodge. And the first thing what I would like to do is get rid of it, the mask. And this one I'm not gonna clip because I wanna have this effect not only inside her but also around it, because it's gonna be a glow. And what I'm doing now is I'm taking the flow, and let's first brush like one time here. Let's bring the flow even lower. So I'm gonna brush the parts that are the lightest, like there. I think it's too yellow. I'm gonna move a bit to the orange side like that. There, oh, there. Also maybe a little bit here. Lighter areas that are reflecting the light. You can see we're getting some sort of a glow here. And let's also do a bit on our hand here. Maybe a bit more here. And I want to have this more here because this is our light effect. We can increase it there. And look at that glow. Before, after we're getting really nice glow there, we can start to lighten up the torch. Now we can also brush a little bit. Let me duplicate this layer with Ctrl J, and I'm gonna delete this mask and make a new one. And I'm also gonna brush a little bit there, just in a separate mask, so I can control this separately from the torch, and also there. And we're getting those nice highlights. Let's see before, after, look at that. And also a bit more here, even like that. We can also do maybe a bit on the ground there, or like this whole area. Let's try that. I think this will make it a bit more softer. All right, so that is for the light effect. Let's work a bit on the background. I have a feeling this orange part, maybe it shouldn't be orange. So let's go back to the background. I'm gonna try to find it. We have a lot of layers here, so it's a bit messy now. This one and this one. What if we try another color? Maybe something like that. Or let's do maybe like that. Before was this. Although I like the orange, but maybe a little bit less orange like that. I'm gonna try and add a mist photo in the background. I have these mist photos here, and maybe this will make it cooler. So I'm just gonna drag this there, and look at that. We can instantly change the whole mood of this photo. And this is the good thing about trying out different backgrounds. Sometimes you place one background and you think it's cool, and then later on you try something else and it looks even better. And I think this might even be better than the previous one. Let's see, we had this. Looks like he's on top of a hill somewhere, and this one is a little bit closer. Let's make this one normal and probably place it underneath that so we still see that mist. But I think we can drop this color. This color doesn't look right here anymore, so it's gonna be more like that. I think the wolf also needs some mist like between his legs, so I'm gonna duplicate this one layer and place it above the wolf like that, and that's already better. And let's delete this mask and do it again, and I'm gonna brush a little bit more here like that, so I have a feeling like he's coming from this misty part there. But I have a feeling these rocks at the foreground should also have a little bit more mist, so let me find those rocks. I have so much layers now, so I have to go through everything again. Here, rocks, and was it this one? This color doesn't fit this image anymore, so we have to change this again. And you notice how much times you would change this image. Every time you try a new background, you have to change every color. So I think something like this is better. I think I like this one more than the previous background. I'm gonna keep this one. All right, now let's see. We have some more background. Let's go back to the background. This one, I'm gonna try and add a curves here to see if I can make this slightly different. It's getting a bit too grayish at the top there, but I'm liking this grayish kind of tones. Makes it more mysterious. All right, like that. Before it's a bit too dark, and this gray is a little bit better, I think. Now in the foreground, this tree, I'm not sure about it. Maybe move it a bit there, like that. And this one, I will probably get rid of that kind of orange color like that. This is a lot better because we first had that orange background and we got rid of it. So everything that we made orange doesn't need to be orange anymore. And this one, I will press Ctrl U and I'll just make it black and white. And also this one, that orange, we need to get rid of that. Ctrl U. I'm just making this black and white. This one, we can barely see it, so let's just get rid of that. Maybe like that. All right. The wolf also is a bit too orange to my feeling, this face here. So I'm gonna try to find it, this one. And I'm gonna go here. And I'm gonna try to see if we can make this slightly better. Maybe, oh, maybe something like that. I think the light effects on the wolf aren't so perfect. It could be better, but I have a feeling I'm gonna be busy with this all day long if I'm gonna make this perfect. But let's try to correct it slightly, especially this part. It's too light now. I'm gonna take a brush and get rid of it here, a little bit less here. Also this. It's glowing up too much for me. I think it should be less glowy. Like that. There's also here. And also this is a bit too light. I'm just gonna brush a bit less of this light reflection. Also this one is too glowing here. Ah, that's better. All right, let's work a bit more on this tree here. I'm gonna add the curves again. And I'm gonna give it a bit more contrast like that. Because this tree is really in the foreground, so it should have a lot of contrast. All right, now to make things even better, we could also use dodge and burn, especially on the wolf. I want to make his back side a bit darker. So we have this one. I'm gonna make like this gray layer again. So I'm gonna make new layer here, go to edit, fill, select 50% gray and change blend mode to overlay. And I'm gonna go to the burn tool here, burn tool, and I'm gonna go with highlights first. Let's increase this. Let's make the brush bigger. I'm gonna make there the backside slightly darker, and also maybe here, so we can create some shadows, because I feel like we can have some more shadows in this wolf in the background, like there, maybe also here, there. Let's see before. Oh, if you want to see the before, like that, and we made the backside a bit darker. Now I'm gonna switch to midtones, and I'm gonna drop the up the exposure, and I'm gonna do the same, like that. Not much, just a little touch. Also do this side here and there. Now I'm gonna take the shadows and drop it even more. And let's see. We still want to make sure the background is not like really dark black, because the farther you go away from a subject, the less contrast it will have. So it's good that it's like grayish and not like super black. I just want to make it slightly darker. So before it was this, and now I have a feeling this adds some more depth to the image. Although this part here, I'm feeling we could add some mist there. So let's go back to this mist, and what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna brush some mist there with a really low flow. Just a little touch of mist there. Let's see, like that. And we have a feeling that he's like stepping out of the mist to the foreground. Before, after, you can see it starts to fade away in the mist there. All right, let's also work on these stones here. We can also do some burn on the stone. So I'm going to create a new layer on these rocks actually. And this is annoying when you try to get it out of this folder, this layer. Let's close these for now. Ground, rocks, create clipping mask. And I'm gonna fill this with 50% gray again. So you can see we are now editing those rocks or stones, and change the blend mode to overlay. And let's go to the burn tool, and let's start with highlights again, especially like there, just to make them a bit darker, especially those areas there, just to blend the whole thing better together, especially where there's no lighting there. So I want to make sure there's a bit darkness there. All the lighting is coming from here, from her, so I'm just trying to brush these parts. And then switch to midtones, drop this a bit, and brush even more, like there. It looks like I'm doing nothing, but when you enable disable this, look at that. We are making those rocks darker in the background. And also the shadows here. One more brush, before, after. And we have to do the same for the ground here. So let's find the ground. Let's go to the ground. Where is the ground? We have rocks, ground here, and this one. I'm gonna go inside this folder. Oh, create a new layer, create a clipping mask, go to edit, fill, 50% gray again, change blend mode to overlay. And now we're gonna take the burn tool, start with the highlights again, increase the exposure, and let's brush there in the background here. So I'm making like sort of a circle around her. So where she's standing, she has some lighting because she has the torch, and everything goes farther away from her, less lights, more darkness. The same goes for this one. Start with highlights, then work your way down to the midtones and shadows, and before this, after this. And if it's too much, you could also drop the opacity so you can really define how much of this do you want to apply. I think it looks nice there, maybe a little bit less. All right, let's now work a bit on the trees here in the foreground. We can change the lighting a bit on that. So I'm gonna add a exposure, I'm gonna increase the exposure, and then I'm gonna get rid of the mask, and I'm just gonna brush it with a white brush a bit there, just a little bit like that. I think the tree also needs to drop some colors. You see these colors? I'm gonna drop those like that. And I think this is already enough. Let's work a bit more on the wolf. I have a feeling the left side should be slightly darker. So let's go to the wolf, and just like we did with this one, I'm gonna make a new layer. I'm gonna fill this with 50% gray and change the blend mode to overlay. And for this one, I'm gonna use the burn tool. I wanna make his head on this side a bit darker. So let's start with highlights. I could also try using curves, but let's first do this one. And I think because this torch here is like coming from this side of his face should be slightly darker, and it's gonna make a real change to this image, I think, at least. And also the top side here, maybe this should be a little bit darker. Let's now the midtones, and you can see it's not much, but it's probably gonna make a big difference at the end when I do the final corrections. And also there, maybe this there, just like that. And then we can really see difference between the left and right side of this wolf because the lighting is coming from here. So I think these areas should be slightly darker. And I'm also going to do the shadows again. See, before, after, it looks really different now. And I have a feeling this creates a little bit more realistic kind of depth. I could also add a curves here, and let's say, for instance, make them dark like that, and then brush some parts back, taking the normal brush here with the white brush. Make sure to increase the flow again here so you can see this better. And I could brush some parts back, let's say this one. Press Ctrl I to get rid of it, and then let's see if this, maybe this is already a bit too much. I think he's getting too dark now, but I'm gonna take this curves and play around with this. Let's see, maybe a little bit less highlights, or maybe we don't need this one. I think it might get too dark. So all right, let's not do that one, but let's just do this one, but slightly less like that. And I think this is a little bit better. I still have a feeling the black tones of this wolf are a bit too black, if that makes sense. I want to have them a bit more gray, so I'm gonna add the curves and I'm gonna try to take those black tones and move them slightly up like that. I think this blends better in this image. Just make sure it's less grayish than the background, but not as black as now. So it's probably just a little touch. All right. I think we can now go to fine tune our image. Now you can add more stuff to this, like fire particles, maybe some birds, or whatever you think should be added to this. Obviously, this would take a whole day long if I just continue with adding lots of stuff. But let's say, for instance, I would add some birds to this. Let's see which one we have here. Maybe something from these. I'm gonna open this up in Photoshop, and I'm gonna click on select subject. Let it select some subjects, and we have a lot of birds here, so we can use any of these. It doesn't really matter which one you use. The most important part is to just make sure it blends well in your image, and the only thing to do that is to make sure the lighting is correct and the colors, and that's actually pretty much it. So I'm gonna rasterize this layer, So let's create a new layer. Hold on Shift and select them both, and then press Command or Control E. And I'm gonna, let's say, take this one, copy it, paste it. Let's see if we need this. Maybe there, somewhere flying around, but it has this white border. So I'm gonna click Control, and if you hold on Control and click on it or Command, it's gonna make the selection. Then go to Select, Modify Construct. I think you already noticed I'm doing this always to get rid of that white border around it. Then let's add a curves, and I'm gonna take the black tones, gonna move them up, and the highlights gonna move down, maybe like that. And we could even place this small, like in the background there. Not sure if we need this, but it's probably adding a bit more mysteriousness to this image. How about this one? Copying that one. Let's make sure it's a separate layer. Smart object. We could also just take this curves and press Ctrl. Oh, that's not working. I mean, duplicating this just by holding down Alt and moving it there, and then make a clipping mask, and this one also place it somewhere there. Let's do even more, so we can fill up this image with little stuff in the background. So hold down Alt, moving it there, then press that, so we don't have to really blend anything. Just some birds there. Maybe change the curves a bit there, like that. This one is too, I think, too white, too gray. I'm gonna make it darker like that. Let's take one more, maybe this one. And you can see just basically place a lot of stuff in your composite, and it's gonna be a lot more interesting to look at. Just make sure everything blends well together. Let's see this bird. Maybe, oh, I think he's too black now, so you want to make sure it blends well in this image. So a bit more gray tones like that, because he's in the background. This one, let's see, a bit more grayish. This one should be even more grayish because he's even more in the background. So I'm gonna increase this one. Oh, you could also take one and drop the opacity like that. Take this one and also drop the opacity just a little touch, because we have that misty background, so it's gonna look more real when you do that. And this one there, and let's make sure we don't really see pattern there. All right, I think this is already good. So we can also, that's enough for the birds, we can also add some particles. So when I go to my folder of light effects, I have, let's say, let's try this one. Let's make sure we are placing everything on the right place. So I'm gonna place them above everything. Then I'm gonna go back and try this. I don't know if we need this, but I'm gonna try it out. I'm gonna flip this horizontal because I wanna have it in the same direction as the original one. I'm gonna change it to screen. Let's see, like that, maybe smaller. And the color, press Ctrl U. I'm gonna get rid of that orange. I wanna make it more yellow like the original one. Oh, maybe like that. Or maybe we're just gonna use the particles from that. You can see these particles flying around. I'm gonna use those. I think we don't need the flame itself. I'm just gonna use the particles. So I'm making a mask and I'm getting rid of the torch itself, and I'm just using the particles. Like these little things. And if we add a curves on this and make sure we only affect this layer, we can increase this. So if you can increase this, you can see, we can see this a lot better. And this will create these nice particles around it. And then just duplicate it by pressing Ctrl J, place them around it like that. Just make sure you don't see weird stuff going on like this. What is this? We don't need that. There, and make sure you don't see a pattern, or else it's gonna look weird. Duplicate it maybe one more time. Let's see if you don't start to see a pattern. If you start to see a pattern, that's not good. Let's transform this like that. I think this should be enough. Maybe that last one was already too much. I'm gonna leave it like that without the last one. Let's see what we have more here. Light effects. We also have this particles. Let's try this one. Let's change the blend mode to screen, so only seeing the parts that are not black. And you can see this looks weird. To fix this, you can press Ctrl Command L to bring up the levels and take the black picker and just click there. And I can see it fixed that like that. And probably the bottom part, you could use a brush with a mask. Just brush it a little bit like that, just to make sure you don't see like a weird line. And let's see if we need this. I think it's a bit too much. So let's try it out. If it doesn't look right, we can just get rid of it. Let's make it really small like there. All right, I think this should be enough for this one. I'm gonna go to the top layer and I'm gonna create a new layer. I'm gonna press Command Option Shift E or Control Alt Shift E, and it's gonna make a new layer with everything we created. So this is what I do to finalize the image. And I'm gonna press right mouse and make a smart object. And now what I want to do is I want to first add some blur. So to create blur, we're gonna get some more depth. So I'm gonna go to filter and select blur gallery, and we're gonna use one of these blurs. So let's go to tilt shift first. And here we can mess around with this one. So we can basically move these around. We can rotate this also. We can try to find a nice range of the blur. So let's first make sure our image stays sharp. And here we can set the amount of blur. Let's say if you want to create a really blurred out outer area, you could do this here. Let's say rotate this a bit, maybe like that, and then place this there. You can also play around with this one here. Let's make sure our subjects stay sharp and they are not blurred out. So let me try to move this maybe like that. This one move a bit away. So basically what I want to do, I would only like blur some stuff in the foreground. This one is way too close. It needs to move all the way there. Basically something like this will work. You can increase this, decrease this. I'm gonna make this one first. Let's say maybe rotate this a bit. Let's see. I think I want to have those leaves here at the top. I want to have them blurred out a bit more. So I'm gonna move this like that. And also this one, let's drop this a bit. I'm gonna make this one first and press OK. You can see created a little bit blurred out stuff. Now I'm gonna duplicate this layer with Ctrl J, and I'm gonna go back to blur gallery and I'm gonna disable this and I make a new one. And this time I'm gonna use another blur. Let's try out iris blur, for instance. So let's make this bigger, and here we can try out another blur. And then once we have different blurs, we can compare them. So this is way too much. So just making sure I don't do it too much. It just adds a little touch. Can even make this bigger. Gonna make it like that. Rotate this maybe something like that. Then let's see. We don't want to do this too much. We just want to do it slightly like that. And let's press OK. Now before, let's see this one. after getting a bit more blur on the sides. Or we could use this one. I think this one even looks nicer. I'm gonna use this one, but I'm gonna go back to the settings and I'm just gonna slightly rotate this a bit more. I wanna have more of this tree on the left side blurred out. What if we do, let's see, this one? I'm thinking maybe if we do it like that, this one would be cool, maybe. And then play with the blur here. This would create a really nice depth in this image, I think. And this side, let's move it a bit away. I think I don't want to have it blurred out too much, but this side already looks good. And now I'm going to play with the blur here. So I can increase this, decrease this. Need to find a nice range. Let's keep it like that. And look at that. Before, it looks really sharp, and now we created a bit more depth. Or we can use this one. This has a little bit less effect, but I think I'm going to go with this one. All right, now I'm gonna go to, let's delete this. I'm gonna go to filter and select camera raw. Make sure you select the top layer, filter, camera raw. And here we can finalize this image. First, I'm gonna play with the settings. I think the exposure we can drop just to make it slightly darker. Now the contrast. This is always tricky with the contrast. When you increase this, it looks really nice with those black tones, but I'm feeling like it's getting too dark. So I'm gonna drop this first, and later on I can fix that. And the highlights, I'm gonna increase a little bit here. The shadows, it's getting really dark here, so let's not touch the shadows here. And what about the whites? I think we can increase this, just not that much, just a little touch. Then we're gonna go to the blacks, and this one I'm gonna increase. I wanna have more of these grayish tones, like those gray tones. Now we're gonna go to color, and here we can basically change the color. Although I don't really like to mess around with color in this section, I like to do the color more at the bottom. So maybe just a little touch more blue, because we have still night scene, so I wanna have a bit more bluish. And if we don't have enough color, we can play with the vibrance or saturation. Let's try it out. I think maybe just a little bit color. Although it's night, so let's not do it too much. Then I'm gonna go to effects, and when I drop this texture, getting the soft effect, but I'm gonna increase the clarity there, so we still see those details. You can also do this if you like these kind of effects. You could really mess around with these settings here. I think I'm gonna add a grain to this, because this image is at a dark, and when you have images in the dark, you would see like this grain, this noise. So I'm gonna add some grain to this just to make this look more real, and it's gonna blend better together. So add some grain. Don't be afraid to add grain. It's making your image look really more realistic. Then I'm gonna move down, and let's say highlights here. I'm gonna play with the lighting again. So these ones are not much. Can probably drop this. We don't need those highlights there. And let's the lights just slightly increase. This one we're gonna leave. I think I added too much grain. I'm gonna make this slightly less, like that. All right, let's move down. I'm gonna play with the colors here. So this is the area where you can change the colors. So if you don't like a color, you can play around with this here. Let's say this orange, I want to make this more yellow. You can do that here. If you have other colors, you could also change that. So let's see if you can make this better. But as you notice, this image is in the dark, so we don't have that much color going on. So it's not changing a lot. But this orange is the only one we could actually change here. You can also make it like that. But I think I shouldn't mess around too much, or else I'm gonna ruin the image. Let's play with luminance, the lighting here. I'm gonna leave it like that, just a slight increase. And also at the bottom here, let's say we can add some vignette maybe, just to make those other parts a bit darker. See before, After, I think it's better. So we have more focus on the center here. And this one is also for the color. So this is also a section that you could play around to have better colors or different colors. You can really play around here to get something different from your image. I'm just moving them from left to right to see what it does, and then I decide, do I need this or don't need this? Maybe this is also pretty nice, although it looks really different. Then let's keep it as it was, just like that. I'm gonna keep it at the original one, just slightly touch to the left. Now the next step is, let's see, before, after, look at that, looks a lot better. I think the next step is to add a curves, and here you can make it slightly lighter, add a little bit more contrast if you want to, and also change the blend modes, not blend modes, the colors here from RGB to red, and then move this a little bit to the right so you get those nice blue tones. I think for this image blue tones would be nice, and also this one. And let's also go to the blue and change that one a bit like that. Maybe that one we don't need, or maybe one. And also go to color balance, and here you can make the colors better of your image. And here you can define, do I need more of this blue, more of this yellow, or more red? And you can all do this here. I think this is a night image, so having some blue would make sense. But on the other side, I like to have also red because it makes the image a bit warmer. Let's also add a color lookup, and I'm gonna select tree strip, and this is gonna boost the colors. But I'm dropping the opacity pretty low, like that. And I think this image is pretty much done.